today I have with me Rachel Story, and she is going to talk to us about the chat we're going to have on Wednesday, which is Find Calm with Location Independence. And so, Rachel, tell us a little bit about your story and how you became location independent, maybe.
Sure. I have to warn you, though, I tend to get a bit wordy. My last name is Story after all, and I do enjoy telling stories. So I'll try to keep it as concise as possible. So about 11 years ago in 2010, my now husband and I, who's just my boyfriend at the time, decided to move to China to teach English. There were a lot of reasons, but the biggest reason was that we were really struggling to find jobs in the States because the last big recession started in 2008, which was when we both graduated from university. I just kind of took a year off from like looking for a job. I didn't really focus on it. I just moved home when I graduated and just kind of tried to take a break after all that schooling for so many years. And Sasha graduated at the same time, but he didn't really have the luxury to just move back home like I did because he's the oldest of 7 kids. So there wasn't enough space for him at his house. So he moved to China right after college, just for a lack of something better to do. And also because he wanted a new adventure. And it was essentially just an extension of university. But then he came back, we started dating. We spent an entire summer traveling around the country, seeing live music, which is our favorite thing to do. We met at a music festival. It's always been a big part of our relationship. And then at the end of that summer, I really wanted to try and find a job in my degree, which is music business. So I wanted to work in the business side of live music, but it was really hard because of the recession that, those jobs are the first to go. And what I ultimately realized was that I didn't want to turn live music into a job because I didn't want to start to dislike it because it's my passion in life. So that was when I realized that I was really just hungry for more adventure too. So Sasha and I moved to China together, and we wound up living there for a total of 5 years in 2 different cities. And it was an amazing experience, but always like the only thing that I really didn't like about it was not necessarily that I was so far away from home, but it was that I couldn't just go home when I felt like it. I was teaching English, which was great. I had a really great job, and it was really easy to take time off. But the most I could take at a time was like 2 weeks. And after we did our big gap year trip, we did that when we moved cities. We quit our jobs in Beijing and then did a 14-month-long gap year trip before settling into Kunming. And that's where it was once we got back to Kunming that I really decided that I wanted to make full-time travel my lifestyle, because I had enjoyed that sense of freedom that I got on the gap year trip of not having any responsibilities, not having anyone to answer to. And I realized that it just wasn't sustainable to, work really hard for a while, save up money, and then quit that job and then go spend all that money on travel and then repeat. I wanted to just be able to go stay wherever I wanted for as long as I wanted. So that's kind of where I got the motivation to become location independent. You're muted.
Sorry. So thank you so much for sharing. I really liked hearing the backstory of like how you got inspired. So I met you through Location Indie, which is a community that you and I are both in, helping people become location independent. And I just recently became location independent as of last year, beginning of this year, January. So yay! So we talk a lot about these kinds of things and like how to do it. I have been in that community for 2 years, so it's been a really long journey. Well, 2.5 years. It's been a really long journey of trying to figure out the right steps. And I love how you kind of assessed and were like, well, this isn't going to work for me this way. And so like then that transferred you into what you're doing now, right?
Right. Well, it took a bit of time from the moment I realized that I wanted to become location independent to actually becoming location independent. And Location Indie community has been really amazing for that. I've been a member for 3.5 years now. After we moved to Kunming, that was when we started making our exit strategy from China. And my husband, Sasha, had always wanted to do this sort of study abroad / cultural immersion program in Bali. It's actually a program that's done by the government of Indonesia, and they have it in different universities all over Indonesia. But we really wanted to go to Bali because one of our really good friends who we knew from living in Beijing had done this program. And that was the first time we ever went to Bali, was to visit him. And like most people, we absolutely fell in love with the place. On that trip, we stayed for 10 days. We went back again on our gap year and stayed for 2.5 weeks. And so when we got to Kunming, this was the first time that we didn't have some sort of like onward long-term plan. So we thought, there's no time like the present, might as well go for it, because it's not so much the application process, it's the waiting time. There was like 4 or 5 months between the application deadline and finding out for sure if he was accepted into the program. But long story short, he was. But the problem with that was, yay, we're moving to Bali. But then it was like, what am I going to do? Because he was going to have a student visa, which would give him a residence permit. And he even got a monthly stipend from the program. Great for him, but what was I supposed to do? And so I started researching and ultimately learned that it's really hard for foreigners to get a job in Bali, for good reason, because they want as many jobs as possible to go to the locals. And also just because of economic differences and things like that, there wasn't such a high demand for learning English, and it really wasn't a high paying job. So we decided that because we had just gotten married while we were living in Kunming, that it was just we were gonna treat it like a year-long honeymoon. And we had saved enough money living in Kunming that last time in China teaching English, where we could just live on savings if we were smart about it. The nice thing about Bali is if you live like a local, it's really inexpensive. So we moved to Bali, but the whole time we were there, I knew that once we left Bali, by the time we did that, because this wasn't a forever thing, that I was going to need to figure out a way to either make money online myself, or really that was my only option, because I didn't want to go back to working in a job somewhere, especially not back in China, because I didn't want to, that would have felt like I was going backwards in life, and I wanted, forward progress. So I had learned from one of Sasha's brothers that teaching English online was an option, because he had done it through a program at his university at Michigan State. So I started looking into online English teaching, but it seemed like I kept turning up dead ends, or that it wasn't going to pay well enough to make a lifestyle of travel work. But then finally, when I had about like a month left in Bali, that's when I finally found VIP Kid. And so I've been teaching English online with them ever since. And that was kind of the one thing that I needed to get started on a true digital nomad lifestyle, because one of the things that I always tell people is I have my own 5-step process for becoming location independent. And one of those steps is just getting an online job that pays you enough for you to pay your bills and meet your basic needs. And we can talk more about this on Wednesday. But one thing that I notice amongst people who want to become location independent is they feel like they need to get the job, the remote job right off the bat that's going to pay really well, and it's going to be everything they need. And people get really discouraged when they don't find that. And becoming location independent is definitely a marathon. It is by no means a sprint. And it's a long-term goal and journey that you have to have enough patience and really determination to make it happen. And one of those first small steps you can take is just figuring out how to earn $1 online, just one, because then that shows you that it is possible, and it's a lot easier to go from there.
I love that. That's such a helpful thing to say, because I can tell you, over the last couple years of me struggling on what path to take. It's been a challenge. And even now I don't think it's ever like super, I think people have this illusion of what it is like.
Right.
And it's not, it's always a challenge, and it's always, but I'd rather have this challenge than the challenge of being at a 9 to 5 where I
Yes.
was miserable.
Right. Exactly.
So it's like there's nothing that's perfect, right? Life isn't perfect. So we're not promising people that they're going to write a blog and then make thousands of dollars,
Yeah,
right?
Right. Exactly. No, definitely not. But yeah.
But you do have a blog.
I do have a blog.
And I have a blog. So blogging is cool.
Blogging is totally an option. But the thing that I always tell people is that there is not one way to become location independent. There's only your way. And it's going to be different for everyone based on their skill set, based on really what they want their lifestyle to look like. Like when we're going to pretend like it's normal times and travel is like usual, like, do you want to be moving from place to place and moving somewhere new every month, every 6 weeks? Or do you want to have like a home base and be able to just kind of travel when you want and where you want? I think that's one of the more important things to figure out, because then you can kind of shape your online work to fit that. And you're working for your lifestyle instead of trying to fit your lifestyle around your job, which puts you in control, which is really, I mean, there's really nothing better than that, having that ultimate freedom and control over your time, essentially.
It's a good point to make. I think some people kind of get the term location independence mixed in with the digital nomad.
Yes.
And, it's more thinking of like digital nomad is somebody like that's traveling and moving around all the time and doesn't have a permanent place. And people who are location independent, while they might have a location they depend on sometimes as their base, they're still more focused on traveling.
Right.
And being able to have the freedom to do, if they want to stay somewhere, a destination for a month or 2 months, they can, or if they decide they want to go somewhere and then be home for a few months, then they can do that. So I love that you kind of clarified that. There's some differences in the terminology around understanding of what that means to be location independent. So we'll talk more about this, and we'll talk about like different ways and different opportunities around how to transition if you are in a 9 to 5 job. So if you're listening, if you're watching this on Facebook, we are going to be talking about location independence with Rachel on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. To grab the link to the Zoom call, you need to register for it, but you can grab that on our Facebook page, on the Find Calm Here Facebook page. If you're on Facebook, in the events tab, and you'll find her event there. Also on findcalmhere.com, on that main front page of our website is the link. You can grab the link for the registration to the Zoom event, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And then we are going to post this on YouTube and other platforms. So make sure that if you have any questions, you can bring them with you. If you're still in a 9 to 5, or if you're location independent, bring your story and share with us how successful you are, because we'd love to meet you as well. Rachel, is there anything else you want to kind of share with anybody before we head out for the day?
Nope, I think you covered it all.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for chatting with me in this quick little preview of our upcoming event with the Find Calm Here community. Again, findcalmhere.com is the website you guys can go to grab the Zoom link, and we will see you on Wednesday.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. All right. Bye.